Hi everyone, I'm Heidi. I'm Ozzie and Zeke's mom, and they asked me to talk to you this year about feline safety during the holidays. As many of you may be aware, the holidays can sometimes lead to very catastrophic things happening to our animals, cats and dogs, and other mammals or birds, and it's actually probably one of the most stressful times of year for many veterinarians. There's all sorts of dangers and things that could happen. I have 8 tips that I want to go over with you about possible hazards and ways to avoid them. One of the ways that we like to get into the holiday spirit, whether you're a pet owner or not, is to decorate your house, whether that be the outside of the house, the inside, or both. And it can be really fun, and pets can engage in it too. For pets, when you bring out all the Christmas ornaments and decorations, it's like opening a toy box for them. It's super exciting. There's a whole bunch of new items out that they have not explored before, and they really engage. It's very exciting. But consider the inside of your house, especially if you have young kittens or puppies. Think about the items that you have around your house and how they might potentially impact your pet if they got a hold of it. For example, if you have a real Christmas tree and you have the Christmas tree in water, not only is the water kind of gross for your cat or dog to ingest, but there could be pine sap that could potentially get in their fur and cause a big mess if they were to get involved in that tree and some of the ornaments on the tree. In addition to that, pine needles from real trees litter the ground, especially if your tree gets dried out at all. And that could be something that a kitten or a puppy or even a dog or cat could be interested in chewing on. So you might want to consider an artificial tree this first year, especially if you have young puppies and kittens. Another point about decorating is the electrical and the ornaments. Ornaments often have little tiny itty-bitty items on them, and it's something that they could fall off and your pet could find that it's fun to play with and eventually ingest it. There are lots of ornaments that are glass, so if they do get broken, you could find that there's glass on the ground that you may not have even seen, and your cat or dog might have broken it, or maybe even a small child broke it and didn't pick it up, and then all of a sudden maybe your kitty or your puppy or your cat or dog steps on that glass and cuts their foot. There's all sorts of bad things that could happen with ornaments, so keep that in mind when decorating your tree. And last of all is, of course, electrical hazards with all of the little lights that you use to decorate your tree in the house. I think, well, maybe the cats are a little bit older now, they're not as likely to chew on cords. Well, even so, sometimes those lights tend to come out of the cord, and now there's a little object that the cats might take interest in and want to chew on. So I just recommend keeping your inside stuff to a minimum, especially if you have younger pets. Observe them, watch them around things, and try to keep those kind of hazardous things far away from them, far out of reach if you can, and very much monitor your pets, especially when you first bring these items out for the first time. Another thing to consider around the holidays are holiday plants. Now, we all love to see things like poinsettias in our homes, but unfortunately poinsettias along with lilies are very toxic to cats. They can cause death within about 36 hours. So especially if you don't know, and if you have any question if a bouquet of flowers shows up in your house, make sure that you put it in an area where your cat can't get to it until you have a chance to research what flowers are in there. My understanding with lilies is that every single part of the lily plant is deadly to your cat. So whether it be the stamen or the actual leaves or the flower itself, it can be very, very toxic to your cat if they ingest it at all. So if there's any question at all, put the bouquet aside, put it in a room where the cat can't get to it, and continue on with your evening. Another favorite around the holidays, of course, is chocolate and candy and anything yummy and sweet. Things that people often bring over as just a neighborly gesture or something like that. Now, what we normally do with any kind of chocolate that we have in our house is we either refrigerate it or we keep it in a cupboard, but we definitely keep it in a secure location where the cats do not have access to it. Now, most people know about dogs and how potentially toxic chocolate is for dogs, but most people don't think about cats being interested in chocolate. And I will tell you from experience, I've had other cats as well as Ozzie and Zeke. They very much are interested in chocolate if you eat it. It smells very good to them, whether it be any kind of dairy that's used in it, or maybe they just like the smell of the cocoa that's used in it. But it is extremely toxic to them. One of the things that chocolate has in it is a chemical called theobromine. And theobromine is what is so poisonous to dogs and cats. You've probably heard some tragic stories about somebody having a box of chocolates under their Christmas tree and their dog getting into it and unfortunately ending up in cardiac arrest because they couldn't get it to the vet in time. This can happen with cats as well, and I will say from experience, even with Ozzie and Zeke, they are extremely interested in chocolate. So much so that I had some chocolate delivered to us from neighbors and had set it up on a ledge, kind of forgot about it briefly, and then I heard Zeke, he had gotten up on the ledge and I heard the crinkling sound of the paper that was around these candy kisses, and he was already into them. Now, I don't think that he consumed any because all I could find was the paper and the actual chocolate, and there was only like 3 pieces of candy kisses, but he was into it and he was quickly into it. Just keep your eye on him and make sure that you keep that chocolate out of sight of those pets. Around the holidays, we often entertain family and friends and have larger events. And if you're going to have somebody staying with you for several days, you might want to kind of go over some of the things that they should and shouldn't do around your animals. One of the things that you can do is obviously put the cat or dog water bowl and food bowl in an area that's not a high traffic area where it's less likely to get bumped or pushed over or kicked by somebody. You can also explain to them where the litter box is in the case of your cat or possibly your dog. So if it's in a room where the door needs to stay open so they can get to it, you might want to explain that to somebody, or make it so that the door can't get shut. In other words, make it so that the door can't get latched. Those are just a little bit of pieces of advice I have. If you have only indoor cats, make sure that you let your guests know when they're bringing in their luggage not to leave the door standing wide open, because the cats will go out and explore or something like that. But go over your household rules for your pets with your visitors when they first arrive or even before they arrive, so that they're aware of the expectations. And that way everybody will be a lot happier. Now, another thing that happens around the holidays is we have family or friends with small children that may come over. And it may or may not be something that your pets are used to. In our household, we have no kids. So when kids come over, Ozzie and Zeke don't always know what to do when smaller children are around. It's not that they get freaked out, it's just that they're not used to people being in the house that aren't us. And so they might act a little bit more skittish around them. But if somebody's staying there for several days and you have small children, then you might want to monitor the small children when they're around your pets and make sure that they know how to pick up the pet or not to pick up the pet at all. And if it's just an evening, you might want to just put your dogs or your cats or both in another room so that they don't interact with them. It's entirely up to you, but it's a good idea to be able to monitor children when they're with your pet, especially if your cats and your dogs and the children aren't used to interacting with each other. You don't want to have anybody get scratched or clawed or bit. When traveling with your pet to another environment, it's going to be very stressful on your pet traveling no matter what. But once you arrive at your destination, what would be very nice is if you can go to whomever you're staying with and put aside a special little room for your pet. This would include their food and their litter box and their water bowl, of course, and then maybe some items like a dog bed or a cat bed or a pillow or a blanket or even a special little cubby that they can hang out in. And then make sure that you spend some time with your pet in this new environment. But over the holidays, it's always stressful, and if you're the one traveling with your pet, it might be nice for you to just give them a nice calm environment and then eventually introduce them to more people. But putting them in a smaller room, especially cats, it's going to be a really nice thing for them. Another thing around the holidays is kitchen time, and that's someplace where maybe you don't spend much time, or maybe you have a bunch of people working in the kitchen. And then you could have the possibility of a dog or a cat being underfoot. This actually happened in our household one year when we were trying to get Thanksgiving dinner ready. We had a friend bring over a dog, and their dog actually got underfoot. And it's really a bummer if you end up stepping on their dog or their cat for that matter. So if you guys have a big dinner planned and there's going to be a bunch of people in the kitchen, make sure that you move your pets into another room that's shut off from the kitchen, so to avoid things. They could get stepped on, they could actually have a utensil dropped on them, or they could get burned. And it's just one of those areas where if you can keep your cat or dog out of the chaos, the better. And to wrap this up, I just want to tell you that around the holidays, remember that this time could be more stressful for your animals. Make sure that you spend more time with them, especially if you have lots of people in your home that you haven't had there before. Make sure that they know that you still care for them and love them and are affectionate to them. They're going to be going through some turmoil and craziness during the holidays, and just make sure that you be aware of them and know where they are and what they're doing and how they're doing, and that they're your best friend. I hope everybody has a safe and happy holiday season. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope these tips help make a safer holiday for you and your pet.